Okay, Kajimara Tashev, Kajimara Tashev, Tamuj Bio Arish, Tamuj Arash, Le Karen, August Kahal Mehan. We had another guest lined up there, but there's been a technical difficulty, so she's unfortunately unable to kind of join us. But Carrie, we're more than welcome to make comments, and hopefully you will. And a lot of stuff to talk about today. And the theme of tonight's chat is about is Ireland heading for a cultural Marxist, totalitarian, cancel culture society? I think it just seems to be heading that way. Karen, you're very welcome again. And we'll just kick it off with look, there was a rally today in Dublin, and it's inevitable that we're going to see rallies like that. And it's good to see people are showing their disquiet about this ongoing lockdown. My thing about it is I can't work out why people are so compliant with the whole thing. But anyway, first of all, I'll kick it off by saying we don't condone shooting at the guards. That's not what we're about. And it's good to see people out and voicing their opinion against what is unconstitutional, this lockdown. But the shooting at the guards, no, that's to be condemned. Karen, what do you want to say? Economic migrants and bogus asylum seekers, we'll talk about that. Compliance levels and what we think we should be cancelling. We should be questioning all this cancel culture. So kick us off there, Karen. What's your take on things on the rally for a start?
Well, the rally, I mean, first of all, I pleasantly surprised at the amount of people that were there. I think that's brilliant. And it's been long, long overdue. Any other protests that have been going on there in the last few months have been very much in a pocket, like small groups come together, but again, not unified enough. Yellow Vests last year, they drew a big crowd, but it's been kind of quiet, and I find a lot of people are going against them sometimes. So what happened today is huge. However, it's been kind of shadowed by a shooting, flares towards the Gardaí. Don't agree with that, like you said, but the frustration of the people is going to come out some way. Now, if that person or group, or we don't know who done it yet, they could be provoking the situation. We don't know.
Yeah, I thought that.
They don't know the full facts.
I kind of thought that.
And it
could have been an infiltrator.
Sorry.
Yeah, it could have been like a setup, like a sort of a somebody on the other side went in there and to try and show the protesters off as bad.
And look as though we're violent in some way, and obviously giving us a big rapport, because we're always getting, our side is kind of always getting the false negative vibe and reputation. But it's fantastic. I mean, despite the Gardaí trying to separate the crowd, they've done it for probably about half an hour, but then the crowd down the bottom of Grafton Street went down to O'Connell Street, so it did kind of spread, and they didn't win the battle regarding trying to disperse the crowd like the other times. But I've seen the comments sometimes earlier today. People got blaming the crowd. Oh, they shouldn't be. They should be at home. Why are they going out there? They're making a mockery of all our health workers. But I said, it's not just about health. It's about our freedom of a way of life, because our way of life has been taken over by this totalitarian communist efforts to bring communism across the world, not just here but across the world. And
when you talk about communism, when you talk about totalitarianism, it basically means the government controlling every part of your life, and that is basically what they're doing. And it does go against the Constitution of Ireland. Like if this was happening in North Korea, communist North Korea, people would say, "Look at those poor people over there and what they're having to put up with." And as I said, the level of compliance with it is remarkably high. Nobody seems to be questioning the thing. But so, Karen, I mean, when you talk about, we've seen a lot of people approaching us who are from Eastern Europe, and they're coming in saying they recognise what's happening because they've seen all this happen in Eastern Europe. Would you agree with that? What's your thing on that?
I mean, we've taken in a good few members now. I've spoken to 3 of those members who come from Eastern Europe before Christmas, and they're very, very clear. They cannot understand why we're not fighting more. They're very clear on what communism is, because even though they're in their 30s, they would not have gone through it themselves. They have parents and grandparents who would have, and if I, you know, even as far as back as the war, who would have been involved in, you know, either been in prisoner of war or just had been in, say, Poland, for example, standing in queues outside supermarkets and not have any control of their lives. So they see the signs a lot earlier than we would. So while some people are believing the COVID message and the stay safe and stay at home message the whole time, it's really communism in the back door of under the safety rules and regulations. And we need waking up people to this. Now, I know what we've seen today is encouraging, but there's still people out there who will condemn this march that happened today. They'll be all gossiping in the corridors of work and saying, "Isn't that terrible what they've done?" Because they believe what's happening in RTE. Yeah. We need to wake up people. I mean, that's why we as a party, we need to be out talking to people on the ground. You know, social media can only do so much. It's great. It gets the message out so far, but it only does so much.
What about this cancel culture thing that's going on? You see, that barrister there did a piece. She spoke out about the lockdown. She was taken off this refugee thing.
Yes. Yes.
And there was the doctor there recently that spoke out about. It just seems anybody that seems to question any of the agenda seems to get purged, don't they?
And very quickly. It's not just done over a few months. I know one doctor in particular who's been talking now since last spring. He is being pursued by the IMC, but he hasn't been struck off yet. But yet that other doctor in Selbridge, he came out and he's been struck off very quickly. And the other lady, I know she's taking another case, but she's struck off this refugee kind of like a board, like a some kind of panel, and she's struck off as soon as she speaks out, and it's happening very, very fast. To me, that sounds like they're desperate to get the people off and send a clear message to anyone else. So, I mean, that is
that resistance is futile.
Yeah, I mean, that is a characteristic of communism, because they want propaganda as their message, but you know, control over censorship and what's being said, whether it's in the papers or whether it's on the street, or you know, civil servants not being able to speak out, or any other doctor speaking out. That is a characteristic of censorship as well. So it's ramping up very fast. It's actually shocked that doctor was suddenly taken down so quickly, and that other sister. Now, she was only recently on doing a piece for that crowd, the Irish Inquirer. They're doing little sound bites with different people, professionals who are speaking out, which is fantastic. But they're taking down.
We saw this week on the cultural Marxism thing, the thing about the economic migrants are now going to be given a house within 4 weeks, whether they're genuine or bogus or not, jumping way ahead of the people that are on the waiting list or homeless. That's all part of cultural Marxism. And if you speak out against that, you're a racist, you know.
Yeah,
so that's coming moving on apace with that.
That really, now I have to say, when I heard that on Friday morning, I was like, if that doesn't shock people, I don't know what to say. Now, while we're informing people and trying to educate people what's going on in the background, making them see, if they don't rise, they've only themselves to blame. If I was on a housing list with a child and a partner, and I was on that housing list for 10 years, and I thought that somebody was coming in from another country, I'm getting in a house that I should be getting. I don't care where they came from. It's not racism. And if I thought I had a child who was going through that themselves, a cousin, a sister, a brother, I wouldn't be happy with that. And I wouldn't like to see an African be treated like that in their own country, or an Asian or a Syrian. I mean, if we don't start looking after our own in each country, then it's going to cause problem in society in general. We are being pushed out further and further and further. And that is not racism. Housing the Irish first solves the problem until we get our country back.
It's not racism at all. Anybody would claim that. And then, of course, hand in hand with that goes the aggressive abortion agenda And so people are saying, because we're aborting all our children here, we have to replace them with other people. Well, instead of doing it, getting rid of abortion, and then you wouldn't have to bring in other people, so it weakens their argument. But just going on to the thing about the vaccination, what really scares me about that is they're saying that the vaccines are going to pretty much be mandatory if you want to travel. Now, I travel a lot, and I know Fergus does, but like going to America, and it's really looking like if you want to go there, you're going to have to take a vaccine. That's very, very scary. I mean, I was talking to a guy today who said, now he's in his 60s, and he said he took his vaccine the other day, and he's only just stopped actually getting bad headaches since he started taking the vaccine. So you talk about long-term effects of COVID. What about long-term effects of the vaccine?
Yeah, I've heard people get being very sick with them, even in our hospital. But I'm also worried about the fact that I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Anyone who travels, even a work point of view, considering where I work in the public health, and our unions also have a role to play to push back on this mandatory vaccination. Now, the word mandatory is not law, and I'm only after seeing this before I came on. Regulations are not law. Rules and guidelines are not law. So really, the Constitution should be able to push back. In fact, sisters should push back on this. And any case of mandatory vaccination, either as a way of travel or to keep your job or to stay in their own job, like nurses and the HCAs, which is a healthcare worker, they shouldn't be made take a vaccine just to stay working with patients. And it has come up recently this week through our union, and they were saying it's always been a case where somebody who refused to take a vaccine, they could have to redeployed. That to me is not on. If you're a nurse, that's your career. It's a skill. You can't take a nurse away from her job. Now,
Yeah.
Funnily enough, across the two children's hospitals, there has been a good big take up of the vaccine. But any nurse decided, no, I don't want to take the vaccine. Are they going to be risk assessed? The union
It's probably going to end up. It's probably going to end up no job. It's going to end up no job, no job. They're saying that, you know.
Yeah, but the only thing is with that, I know in England that's happening a lot. It's talked about a lot. But I've been watching UK column and they're bringing that up. But sisters are kind of going to be hot on their heels. That would be more in favour of the employee than the employer, because it's a constitutional issue. I mean, you have a right to work. You've also a right not to take a job. I haven't taken a job in years.
Travel, I think as far as travel goes, they kind of have you there. They can just say you're not getting on the plane unless you've got a passport, vaccine passport.
Yeah, and it's interesting because RTE deliberately reported on a situation in Israel, where Israel is ahead of everybody, where you can't go to a supermarket and you have to show your phone to show your level of status regarding testing and vaccination. Go to a supermarket. They have a kind of a vaccination hub at the front of a supermarket to get, show that you've been jabbed and to go in and get food. That is communism. I don't know what else to say.
It is.
You can't go anywhere. I've been reading about the characteristics of communism, and right down to production, such as factory owners and that. And we've seen over the last year where factory owners and factory workers, have been blamed for, the spread of an illness. In fact, that was an excuse to close them down. Or we blame them for not, being safe in their workplace. It was an excuse to close them down or to kind of control what they do. And that is another form of communism. So, and the state being involved in your family life, that is communism too, like down to children and, and work and when to work. And obviously giving you money enough to survive. That is through our pandemic universal payment system.
But for Ireland to be, Ireland's an island nation. I mean, the figures for Ireland are some of the worst in the world in terms of per capita cases of this. For an island nation, that's just a disgrace and how badly it's been dealt with. And then you look at the vaccine itself, whatever your opinions are, Britain's way ahead of Ireland on the vaccine.
Yeah, I've seen that last night.
So it's not good. And for Micheál Martin now, even in terms of opening out the lockdown, he's not given a time frame for it the other day. So his time frame just wasn't good. It was non-existent. Or at least in England, Boris Johnson has said they're given a timeline, so people aren't being given an element of hope about getting out of the thing, you know. Alex Ryan saying sad day for Ireland, disgraceful footage in BBC. Yeah, I saw the footage. Yeah, and they're saying that, you know, they were talking about the footage in the rally, and they said people aren't allowed out of their houses 5 kilometers. You think to yourself, God, it just sounds so bad. You know?
Yeah. And
1984, Big Brother.
Well, that's true, but I mean, I've seen a huge change in the attitudes of people, you know, like going out about their business as usual. You wouldn't think there was a pandemic sometimes because they're going travelling more and they're pushing back more, and the Gardaí are not doing the checkpoints as much as they are. So there is a difference between this one and the last one, even before Christmas. So they're still doing
the hard border. They're still doing the hard border.
Yeah. That's the problem. That is the problem. So are they saying when that's going to end?
No, that's what I was hoping to hear, and I didn't hear anything about that at all. So, I mean, Micheál Martin, he just speaks out of both sides of his mouth. He said 2 weeks ago, he says, one thing is that we can't, this protocol, Northern Ireland Protocol, we can't have a hard border in Ireland at all. But meanwhile, the Guards are actually implementing the very thing he's saying we can't have.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. I mean, I never thought I would see this in my lifetime, and we're both in the same generation, and we're still young.
Speak for yourself.
Huh? What?
What are you joking? Yes, indeed we are. Yes, go on, Karen. Yeah.
No, it's just I never thought I'd ever see something like this in my country. You know, I mean, the buy-in and acceptance of people, and it's very, very difficult. You know, if people don't rise, they do deserve what's coming to them. What I like to see us doing, and you're talking about members, you know, being, you know, some of our members being, you know, in the Polish community, and they have come into our country over the years, and the times are good, and they've blended and integrated very well into our country. So from a cultural and Christian point of view, I think it'll be a good idea to link in with them more, because they have so much knowledge. If we sat down and have a conversation and do what they see needs to be done, we're not doing what needs to be done. Today was an exception, but God only knows when that'll happen again. Now, considering what happened on Tuesday with the Balbriggan lady, who took a step up and said, I want to open my business, and did, even though she has been stopped, she still did it, knowing the risks, knowing she's going to be arrested. What disappointed me more than anything else was other businesses in the same town did not support her. They weren't out. There's one lady came down and was given out because she opened. Now that, to me, there's no solidarity. Whereas that, if it had happened 6 years ago, there was more solidarity. I'm not seeing it as much this time. It's too broken. There's too many people going against each other. I don't know how to solve that problem.
They're on their way to creating civil unrest, but when you talk about spreading, I think there was a good comment made in one of the videos this week. Never mind spreading the virus. What's been spread around here quite well by the government is fear and terrorism and anxiety in relation to this virus. And somebody made a comment.
Go ahead.
Sorry?
No, go ahead there.
And somebody said there about civil unrest. You know, what do they want to do? Do they want this to end in some form of civil unrest, where people just finally say enough is enough? We're past the enough is enough stage. That was before Christmas. We're now at the stage where, when is it going to end? A year. People would say, look, a year, we'll write off 1 year, but we can't begin into a second year.
Yeah. And are you aware of what happened earlier this week about a leak to
Balbriggan, yeah.
No, gripped. They got a leak from about a group of scientists, a bit like SAGE. They're the Irish scientist advocacy group, and Thomas Ryan is one of the members, and he's our poster boy in RTE as well, along with Luke O'Neill. And basically, somebody leaked some of their emails to Gript about what they were saying to ramp up fear. Now, Sage do the same thing in the UK from Imperial College. So they're well aware of what they're doing and saying. It's not about, under any circumstances, about your public health. And I'm tired of saying it to people. We need to kind of push the message more and more and state it very clearly. I was always nervous of using the word communism, but not anymore. I think we just need to tell the people who are not awake, you are now living in a communist state. I'm tired of saying it otherwise. No point being nice about it anymore, because today has changed things. There's no doubt about it. Despite what happened.
Maybe it's the start of people starting to question stuff. What the media are painting it as, this is just a tiny minority of thugs that are,
Yeah. And they will use that to them to the nth degree.
But you'd think people would have an inquisitive mind and would be sort of questioning everything. And people that I work with, just the level of compliance with it is just so high. It is, as I said, it's very, very surprisingly. You feel like you're just swimming against the tide, And I don't know what you feel about taking the vaccine, but if the statistics are 50%, between 50 and 65, you're 99% likely to be okay. Why would you take something that's going to be less efficient? And what way is it going to affect it,
And despite everything, I mean, I've told people that the vaccine is still on trial. And it's not a vaccine, it's a gene therapy. It's not a live vaccine that's in that needle. And it still we still don't get it. And they're more critical of people not wearing a mask than actually thinking about what it's doing to their life. Like if I hear about children, people I work with, they say, I seen a load of children playing in a playground. I couldn't bring my child over because the children were all playing on top of each other and the parents weren't wearing a mask. To me, that's critical.
If you take the vaccine, you do not have to wear a mask. You have to wear a badge saying you're taking the vaccine. I mean, I was in a shop yesterday and the wee security man came right over to me and says, "No mask. Where's your mask?" If I'm going to stop people getting harassed, I've got my badge, there's my badge, It's like the old days with the Nazis going around the juice with the star look. Right.
I mean, I
did watch
an interview on Tuesday night where it was all about young parents dealing with children who are vulnerable, like autism, for example. And one woman had 3 children who are autistic, and the daughter was probably the most advanced, and she brought her brother to the shop in Enniscorthy. And they were actually harassed by the person behind the till for not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And they were told they couldn't get their goods. Next time they had to wear a mask. Now, to me, there's no education among retailers on this issue, even a year later.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to take. I mean, I don't know why people don't use their instincts. They don't question more. Why are we being locked down? Why would you want to lock down the whole world over coronavirus when there's so many other diseases that are much more dangerous than corona?
Yeah, and I posted something, I don't know where you saw it yesterday, a good friend, a woman that I knew well from Irish Language Radio.
Yeah, I did.
And I think that may well have been a suicide. That is, to me, that's a death related to this vaccine or this lockdown. The mental health impact cannot be underestimated of this, So that was
Galway is a bad way.
In Galway?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, and over there, yeah.
What I was saying, hopefully, spring and all's coming in and people are feeling better about things. But like, if we're going to go into a pattern of winter lockdowns, I mean, the mental health epidemic is just going to get out of control,
Yeah.
Imagine if you were told in October, right, we're going to be locking down again, folks, from the end of October or something. People would just, But
no
they keep
Christmas.
They keep saying that the vaccines is the way out, the R number is the way out, but we've achieved that, and they're still not really,
But I mean, what would you think would the best way to get the message out now at this point? And taking what happened today as an encouragement to either do another rally, and not apart from that, but also creating a message that we get out into the streets more. I mean, we're not getting out to people more in a sense that we're still relying on social media, and that is a problem in itself. You know, we need to be on the street and saying to people, look, what happened on Saturday is a turning point, but you are now living in a totalitarian state. So you're not going to get out of these lockdowns. And you've been told to use a mask and use a vaccine and do, you know, I mean, to me, I was looking around Drogheda today, and I've seen so many places being closed. Even now, as we're coming out of winter, you know, the place is a mess. There's no shops. There's no business. There's one of our shopping centres. There's only 2 shops open in it.
Yeah.
It's
But it can't
beyond
be the way
sad.
forward. It can't be the way forward. It's very sad, yeah. I mean, Paul O'Neill's put a get down there about Black Death and smallpox and Spanish flu and everything. Yeah, I was reading one thing there. 1968, there was a flu in the UK and Ireland, and it killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people. It barely got mentioned one day in the news.
Right?
Now we have had a thing here that's been blanket coverage for the whole year.
Yeah.
You know, so it tells you the way things are going. Right. We'll probably try and keep it to the half hour, Karen.
Okay.
It's definitely a kind of the cancel culture thing is very scary too. But people just
Yeah.
cannot speak out about anything. You know, you don't know where it's probably worse down south. When you get the doctors embarrassed.
It seems to be, and like the hate speech laws are being pushed through the dole at the moment. You know, where you cannot speak about anything to raise a question. That's how you improve things. You know, I mean, we look at communism and it says it takes away the self-interest of others. So a self-employed person cannot be, if you want to set up a salon, if you want to set up a business of your own, you're not allowed to do that under communism. That's clear. They've done all the small businesses. So if you want to improve in some way, man has always improved some way. Otherwise, you'd be still living, you know, in Victorian times without technology and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest,
women have improved as well.
Huh? Sorry?
Women have improved as well.
I know, but I mean, I'm talking. I'm talking about man as in man. Has
I know.
race. Yeah. But you know what I mean? It takes away, and I spoke with this before, it takes away entrepreneurship. You know, communism doesn't allow for that. It doesn't allow for a free market. So it's deliberately priming any business owner in any part of this country of taken away their livelihoods. I mean, people don't go into self-employment because they have to. They're doing it because they want to. They have a skill, they have a service, the specialization.
Yeah.
So they're not doing it because it's not just about money to them, you know. You know, they want to create a job. Maybe they were away traveling somewhere, they come back home, they set up a salon in Drogheda, and that's it, you know.
Yeah. Paul O'Neill's making a point there. Amish people have never had a child in their community with autism or epilepsy. They don't vaccinate their kids. So it's this over reliance on drugs and stuff that make us more susceptible to stuff. I mean, in America especially, you do have an over reliance on medication.
Yeah.
Some of those kids that go and shoot up schools and that, a lot of them are over medicated. They've been brought up by single parents, usually the mother. There's no father figure. Cultural Marxism again. They've been divorced parents, and then the mother brings up the children, let them run riot. Over reliance on medication, and then boom.
Yeah.
That's your cultural Marxist society right there.
Yeah.
Over medication. Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, you have everyone the same, not being able to kind of be educated in some way. That you have to, there's a class of society. I'm not saying class is good because you don't want people to be poor. But then again, how do you progress through society by, you know, staying the same? You know?
Right.
It's
Paul's
kind of a balance there.
Paul's making a point about the Spanish flu. I don't know whether they did masks, and he says they tried to do masks and then lockdowns, which created a Great Depression. I know they were considering lockdowns for that avian flu, just before this one, but they didn't do it. So it's a concept that they had been thinking about it. The only trouble is when you bring it in, how do you get out of it? Baz Lynch saying to ask a question means you risk being labelled racist. Yes, absolutely. We've mentioned that many times. A very real issue for ordinary workers. The media, Garda, and politicians are determined to keep the food in our necks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. They have you afraid. I mean, there's a difference between hate speech and harassment and stuff. You're allowed to speak out about general things about not wanting to see or not being in favour of mass immigration, uncontrolled illegal immigration. But if you go over and bully an individual, that's wrong. I mean, we don't support anything like that.
Yeah.
That would be harassment. That's personalising things. But you can make a general point, and just because you might say you don't like the aggressive LGBT agenda, doesn't mean you're against gay people.
No.
Of course not. Some people have suggested that we're anti-gay. We're absolutely not. We're absolutely not.
We're not against
but
anybody.
we're against. Yeah, we're not maybe for the aggressive agenda where it's shoved down throats. But I mean, there are people that are LGBT in the party, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're not against anybody. We're just against the policies that create the problems.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, yeah.
But
Paul
what I
saying
would
you
have
control
loved
the
to have
money.
seen, go ahead there. The bankers are
yeah. What are you saying? You would have loved to see what?
I was just going to say, I'd love to see the girls just put down their batons and just join us, because their children are going to be part of this, you know. And I seen the same mistake being made 6 years ago. You know, I sat in the Garda station in 2015 talking to a sergeant about this issue, about trust and community. You can't get back if you keep doing the way they're going. And they are going to get, you know, they are going to get not beaten in a physical sense, but beaten from a trust point of view. No one's going to believe or trust them again after this. You know, okay, they got shot at today, but that doesn't mean every person there today was bad. Every person, I'd say bar one or two people, was there because of the lockdowns. Nothing else. They were there peacefully.
Yeah.
And I've
been glad to see in the rugby.
Sorry?
In the rugby today, and I know you probably weren't watching it, but Ireland that played in the rugby today, nobody was taking the knee for that silly Black Lives Matter thing, but they did have a respectful gesture of standing up against racism, which of course we're against racism too, you know. Yeah. But at least they do it, whereas the soccer ones take the knee, which is a subservient gesture, and it doesn't achieve anything. Stand up and do it respectfully, yeah.
Oh, I'm delighted. I'm glad it's seen as a big pushback through sport. And that's before the spectators get in, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, at least the rugby are doing it. The soccer are still a wee bit, for some reason, they're not. But the rugby are not. They're not kneeling at all, you know. And Ireland won. Just for all you rugby guys out, Ireland won. Yeah. One can cheer.
Yeah, brilliant. It's a good day overall. Lovely.
I don't have my St. Patrick's flag now, but this will do.
Sorry?
Go Holland, yeah.
Yeah.
Go Holland, yeah. I don't have my St. Patrick's flag because it's nearly St. Patrick's Day, but of course the tricolour will be more than acceptable. Although of course they don't do the national anthem for the away games. They sing that Ireland's that Phil Coulter thing. They don't do the proper national anthem, but there's other reasons for that. Right. Look, thanks very much for all the guys. Goramila Mayaga for everybody chipping in there tonight. And Carrie, sorry that you didn't get. We'll try and get. Thanks for coming on at the start, but we'll try and get it so that your mic for the next time. We'll try and get that sorted because it would have been good to hear Carrie's input. Carrie's a new member that we met in Louth earlier on. That was the time we had the big banner out. Ireland, nobody's calling me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul is saying China is buying up everything. What?
I was going to mention China as well because before I came on, I was looking at the situation in Dundalk. We're now seeing a change in direction where we're having industry that we've had taken in, say, like, you know, American FDI companies. Now it's China, because China have a big plant up in Dundalk called I don't know how to pronounce it, WIXU Biologics, and they are a vaccine company. But it already spent 240 million, no, 325 million euros plus 216 million on top of that to provide jobs in Dundalk. Now, people will say, oh, the jobs are going to Dundalk. But it worries me more that the fact that they're China, the Chinese, and it's a vaccine company, and they're going to get their foot in the door into Ireland. Now, they've had their foot in the door before, but this is really big. And you've seen what happened in England there this week, where it's been highlighted that they're trying to influence education system in England, buying schools, and putting the propaganda nonsense in there. I mean, that's nothing to do with England. I just think Brexit is great, and of course we want to get out of Europe, but I'm finding it's that there's influence is still coming in the back door, regardless of. I mean, is that what we're going to go through if Ireland separates from Europe? You know?
No.
I mean, that's what we need to make sure that when so if we separate from Europe now, we need to make sure that our borders are controlled in every way, not just from a physical point of view, but from a cultural point of view.
Yeah. But there's an awful sneering arrogance towards the BBC and the RTE media. They really do stereotype Brexit voters. And this guy, I don't know whether you saw it, this guy I posted from Cork, it was on BBC last night, and there was a real contempt. There were contempt that they were showing for the Brexiteer voter in the north, and kind of it just shows you the agenda that BBC and RTE do. And in that program every week, it's either something like that, or it's Trump bashing, or it's Brexit bashing. You know, and then last night, of course, Tubridy, he's interviewing somebody again, and then the agenda is clear. He's a bloody hard on for being against Trump. He was saying, "Isn't it better Pennsylvania Avenue? You've got Biden in now, you know, as if it's so much better." Constant agenda. You know?
Yeah.
But that's got to stop. No, that's just trying. I try to put comments up on Twitter about that. But somebody put it. There's a very good article in the Irish News this week about Northern nationalists think they're so much cleverer than Unionists, but they're not really. How clever can Northern nationalists be when they want to be in an all Ireland within Europe? You know, where's the democracy in that? How's that?
Yeah.
The thought of independence has gone out the window in the so-called nationalists' viewpoint in the north, and they stereotype anybody else that doesn't want to be in the EU. You know. But anyway, look. Next time it'll be St. Patrick's Day, and we'll chat about that. Well, look, Slán, everybody.
Right. Okay.
Anything else you want to chip in, or will we?
No, it's just I just find that communism is coming in the door in different ways that shocked me, and you know, I just think we need to be doing more. You know,
it's creeping in. It's creeping in. I mean, it's always there. It's chipping away, and it is the constant battle is in against it. But again, the media are really playing up with it. You know. The cultural Marxism is cultural Marxism is good and everything else is bad. But Red Boar, I think Red Boar is Falchis Jack. That's Aaron, isn't it? No, that's
my local
guy.
Right. Yeah. Good shot.
Yes, I think that is Falchis Jack. Yeah. Yes, I know who that is. Yes. Did you enjoy your coffee today?
I didn't get coffee.
Narwin, 2 salt, that's the Fudge Cafe. All right. Akarja, Gujin Kierarella, Gujeshib Slán. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, good night.
All right.
I'll see you again.
Slán the fall.
Good night.